Hello, everybody. Welcome to Elevate Your Inner Peace. I am Lanette Ferguson, and I am here with Jaime Beasley, Lynn Cebulski, and Jeanette Johnson. And I am, just to introduce myself, I am a healer. I'm a quantum healer. I do past life regressions, emotional release, and probably a bunch of other stuff, sound healing. And I am here with my friends who are here to share our spiritual wisdom from all angles. So, so I'm gonna let everybody introduce themselves. Jamie, do you want to go next?
So I'm Jamie Beasley. I am an energy healer. I am a intuitive and a spirit communicator.
Very good. And Lynn?
My name is Lynn Cebulski. I am a tarot reader, intuitive, and dabbler in other stuff.
All right, Jeanette, it's all you.
I am Jeanette Johnson, and I have been doing astrology since 2000. I do personal readings and short forecasts.
All right, very good. All right, so we're gonna have Lynn start us off with a tarot card pull, and we're doing a card pull for what today, Lynn?
Well, last week's episode, we talked about how we have these wounds that are coming up for healing. And so we had a discussion about how can we actually help people heal those wounds that are coming up. And so that's what we're going to be asking the cards today. What are some things we need to know? What is some good advice to follow? What is some more insight on the things that are presenting themselves for healing? The deck that I'm using today is called the Voyager Tarot, which is a tarot deck from 1989, and I'm going to pull four cards. Okay, so the first card that we have is the Five of Worlds or the Five of Pentacles, and it has the word setback on it. And so a Five of Pentacles typically talks about someone who has an opportunity, job related, hobby related. There's an idea that income is attached, and they are focused on other things and not really seeing the opportunities that are in front of them. And so that creates some sort of setback. And so the first message is to look to the places where we missed the opportunities that were being given to us, and most specifically in the realm of money and hobbies. The next card that we have is a Child of Crystals. Crystals in this deck is swords, and we know swords is air energy, it's thoughts, it's ideas, it's stabby, it's people thinking thoughts that are hurting themselves and maybe hurting others. And we have a child here. And so this speaks directly to what were the wounds of childhood and how are they creating thoughts and thought patterns that are still echoing in our lives today. We have the Hierophant card, which talks about two things. It talks about structure and it talks about spirituality. And so this is a reference to whatever your spiritual practices are or have been or might be in the future. But there's this idea, especially in the conversation about healing, is acknowledging that there is some sort of higher power, if that's something that you believe in, and pursuing that belief and leaning into that, especially if it's a sense of support, and also acknowledging, since we're talking about wounds that are coming up, how being raised with certain belief sets may have unintentionally created wounds and mindsets that are contributing to us, feeling bad when we could be feeling good. And the final card that I'm pulling is the Universe card, otherwise known as the World card. And so the Universe card slash the World card in this particular deck has a very Saturn themed energy to it. Um, we think of Saturn as a planet of karma and of limitations and obstacles, and how do we overcome those obstacles? And again, this ties into this larger theme of, hey, there may be a higher power, there may be more intuition available within myself, but there's work involved. in accessing that intuition, in making an intention to appeal to a higher power and putting the work in that respect in order to reap the benefits and to be more in touch with the world and to feel the sense of belonging in the world. So that is the tarot portion of this reading. Before I hand it over, I will also share a few crystals that I pulled for today. Um, the first one here is selenite. Selenite is a very high vibrational crystal. This is a crystal that is associated with contacting higher realms, spiritual realms, angelic guidance, all that kind of stuff. And so that's a theme that we just saw with that Hierophant card and being willing to make yourself open to spiritual energies. We can't talk about making yourself open unless we also talk about protection. So here's a piece of black obsidian. In crystals, generally dark colored black stones are your protective stones, and they protect you from things that are coming outside of yourself. And so we have this term that we throw around sometimes called psychic attacks, and it sounds a little scary. And what that really means is thoughts are things. Thoughts have energy, whether they belong to you or somebody else. If somebody is thinking bad thoughts about you, whether they're based in reality or not, that does carry an energetic vibration that some people are sensitive to. And so we want this idea of, being open to spirit, but being closed to negative things, and both can happen at once. And finally, we have this nifty piece of citrine, which is a yellow stone, and it has some red hematite inclusions of it. And so yellow stones we associate with the solar plexus chakra. That is the location of the ego, the will, the self-identity, the sense of I am, what am I? And then hematite, that's red. And so it literally is like, where is the crystal wounded? And it's showing up with these red wounds. Red is the color of your root chakra. And so that has to do with exactly what we've been discussing in the last episode. Issues of anger that are coming up for healing, issues of rage that are coming up for healing. And just to mention, when we have anger, the root of all anger is fear. And so when we get angry or when somebody is angry, the way to access that wound isn't to say, what am I angry at? It's to say, what am I afraid of? And the answer to what I'm afraid of literally is the thing that pinpoints this wound that we can then begin to extract.
Okay.
I
So
hand it back over.
I have a question.
Sure.
So because we started off talking about the how to address the wounds that we talked about last time.
Hmm.
And so with that card pull, it seemed like the cards were maybe like not all pointing to the same thing, right? So could you kind of just go over like you gave us the interpretation of the cards, but how does that like I don't know, I just want to feel like I want to dive a little bit deeper into those.
Sure. So the first card, this Five of Worlds, looking at setbacks. And so, if somebody is feeling generally unbalanced or unwell, this is one avenue towards saying, what is it that's bothering me? What went wrong? And how can I start to kind of unpack that? And so for some people, it's the sense of I had an opportunity and I missed it, or sitting in the present moment and saying, I missed an opportunity back there. And then there's a heaviness that comes with that. Am I going to have the opportunity again? Or was that my only chance? And this has a financial aspect to it that's like, hey, I missed an opportunity and I needed that money. And maybe I need money now. And I'm looking back at what I missed and wondering if I'm going to experience that again. So that's one type of wound that is around money and being able to access it. And was I able to, see those opportunities or not? Um, we pulled this child of crystals, which spoke directly to thoughts and attitudes that we experienced in childhood. So that's another thing that can make us, feel not great, is carrying ideas that we don't even necessarily realize were passed down. So The thought that comes to mind, the pattern that runs in my family is you're not allowed to sit still because you're not being productive. That's a thought, right? And so if I'm sitting down, I'm not allowing myself to relax because the inner voice is saying, I'm lazy, I'm slacking off, I'm being disrespectful. That's those thoughts aren't mine. And so if that is a wound that I received in childhood, now as an adult I can have trouble finding a way to relax because I've got this voice in my head telling me that I shouldn't, and because I have a lack of examples seeing people who looked at it from another way and took a vacation. Um, this Hierophant card talking about the structures that come with, organized religion and organized spiritual systems. You know, I think there is a misconception that the work that we do, energy work, divination, is occupies some sort of bad place. And because it's outside the structure of what a lot of people learned when they learned about spirituality, because it's outside that structure, it's necessarily not something good. And what this card is saying is maybe question that. And if you have a belief system that's working for you, great. If there's a spiritual gathering you go to, or a spiritual person you talk to, or a ritual that you do, and it helps you, absolutely great. Stick with that thing. But if you were raised in a tradition where you're not feeling like, hey, this is something I can turn to if I'm feeling unsettled or unwell, I'm not getting comfort or clarity from this particular set of rituals or this particular ideology, this card is a reminder that, hey, there are lots of other systems out there that, similar to the themes we discuss in this podcast, have intersections around how to alleviate suffering. And so it's okay to kind of go outside the box that you come from, and not everything outside that box is bad. And then, finally, the universe card, the world card. I think this is kind of where we get to that self-actualization part, the part where we are fully, you know, healed, fully satisfied, fully joyful, or at least as much as we can be, and how we allow the universe with all of its people and all of its experiences and all of its opportunities, how we let it in and how we find our place in it. And, a reference to the multiple worlds that open up when we heal ourselves. When we're healed and we're happy, we're more likely to have beneficial relationships and balanced relationships and be good at our jobs and have better physical health. There are all these benefits that come with being healed and happy people. And so it's an acknowledgement that by pursuing healing, it's not just about us, it's about how we show up in the world and how we impact the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
I like it.
were you picking up anything, Jamie?
Yeah, I took I made a bunch of notes, and I apologize if they're kind of all over the place, but it's a combination of what was coming through intuitively, and then also things that I've experienced on healing sessions. And so some of the stuff that I was getting is about healing once you're kind of like in your early 50s, and Lynn was like touching on each one of these things is things that Lynn was touching on. I think that we tend to believe that when we get to be a certain age, this is who we are and this is who we're always going to be, and like they lose hope for healing or changing at this point in their lives. And we need to remember that healing is a lifelong journey. And it's not something, and we heal in layers. So every time you peel a layer, there's going to be something underneath it. But every time we heal something, not only are we getting closer to the best version of ourselves, but we're healing 7 generations before us and 7 generations after us. And I had to explain that to somebody the other day, and they said, I understand healing, that it impacts the generations after. How does it impact the generations before? And our thought patterns have a vibration to them. And as long as those thought patterns and beliefs have not been healed, have not been changed, they're still vibrating. They're still vibrating, whether that person, those people are even here any longer. So when we heal something, it can heal, 3 generations, your great great grandmother, who's been gone for a very long time, and it can still heal them. So the another thing is that it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. It's about the process of everything that's happening, good, bad, everything is about what's happening in the moment, and it's all the little things that happen. It's not about getting from point A to point B. It's about that journey between the two. And our inner child, and Lynn was touching on like the card that had the child on it. And yes. So what's happening is I'm seeing a lot of these wounds from our childhood. They're coming up to the surface now because we've been carrying them for so long that for a lot of people, they're turning into chronic pain and to illness and to disease because they've been in our bodies for over, for 50 years, right? So it's getting to a point where for some, and this year has been a doozy for some people because they've had a lot of stuff that they needed to heal, that they needed to release, that they needed to let go, that they needed to forgive. And there's this thought pattern that a lot of us, it gets instilled in us when we're younger, and it's that we don't deserve blessings, that we don't deserve good things. We don't deserve for things to come easily, that the world is a cold, harsh place, and you have to fight and kick and scream to get everything that you need, and that you're never going to have everything, but you should just be happy at what little that you can get. And a lot of us are taught this, and this is not true. What keeps coming through intuitively when I'm doing sessions is the universe is abundant. The universe is abundant. There's no limit to what our blessings that we deserve. There's no limit to that. That when we start on a healing path, it makes us feel very vulnerable because a lot of people, they're not comfortable crying. They feel like if they're crying, then they're weak. And that's your body's way of releasing, right? That is a very, very healthy healing way to release your emotions, is allowing yourself that grace, allowing yourself to cry. And but we feel vulnerable when we do that. But that's part of healing, and healing can be painful, just because we're releasing emotions, because we are briefly connecting with things that we've been holding on to that no longer serve us, that we need to let go of. I don't know if this is like too graphic, but it's kind of like vomiting, right? Like it's painful when it comes up, but you feel so much better after it happens, right? And this is kind of like what healing does for you, that release, and the release of the emotions, the release of that energy, and the release of those blocks. And it's not too late to change. It's not too late to heal. I don't care how old you are. It's never, ever too late. And I have been telling clients that if you could block out all the noise in your life, right? Everybody that has an opinion, that if you could block out what you perceive that people think about you, block everything out. And then if there was no noise, what would your life look like? If there was no limitations, if there was no restrictions, and you could just look and say, this is what I want my life to be. We have that within us to make that our lives, but we first have to let go of these beliefs that have been instilled in us since we were little.
Yep. Yep. Very good.
It's
What are
interesting that you mentioned people around 50, 51. I was talking about earlier, Chiron right now, people in their early 50s, like 51, 52, 50, they're experiencing their Chiron return. So Chiron, in the zodiac, you'll see where it is in your chart. Like that's your sacred wound. So right now, Chiron is at 23 Aries. So Aries is ruled by Mars, right? So we feel really aggressive with this healing. We feel like we're thinking about our wounds as if we've been attacked.
Mm.
So letting go of that feeling that maybe the person who wounded you didn't really like a bad parent. They didn't really mean it. They did their best. It's what they had with their upbringing. And unfortunately, it causes a lot of trauma. So there's this feeling of, well, I feel like I'm attacked. The good news is that Mars is in Sagittarius. So that goes back to Jupiter and Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So it's all these aggressive emotions that are coming up. But I believe Jupiter and Cancer is just going to let us process these, especially as he trines Saturn. So Saturn's our karmic path, and he just went direct. So I feel like people are going to move forward with their healing and let the baggage go and not hold on to it for the next chapter. I mean, this time of the year, everyone looks back at the past 12 months and they want to look forward to the next 12 months. And it's like, what did I do? What didn't I do? And what do I want to do? We have 3 planets in fire. We have a lot of planets in water. We have a grand trine between Saturn, which is our structure and karma, could be our limits, but it's also where we stand in authority. And he's in Pisces right now. So we have to own our emotions and be like, yes, I feel this way and it's okay, but I can let it go. Jupiter in Cancer, Jupiter is where we have luck. And in Cancer, like I said, it's ruled by the moon. So that is luck with emotional healing. So you'll find, seek and you shall find. So just look for ways to process these things, whether it's journaling, showering with crystals. We were talking the other day about like what to do with this process. Like what is the catharsis that we're looking for with all these emotions? And we got a lot of fire in the sky. We got Venus, Sun, Mars, and Sagittarius. So we're not going to be stagnant with this. When Lynn brought up the first card about being stuck, I think that is Uranus in his final stage in Taurus. He's retrograde in Taurus for a little bit. Uranus is where we need to break free, and Taurus is a stubborn sign. Taurus is a fixed sign. So, if you're stubborn about forgiving someone, try to get past that, because Uranus is still ruled by Venus, which is love. And Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So you want to open your mind a little bit, saying, it's possible for me to forgive the past. It's possible for me to move forward. I don't have to hold on to this forever. It feels like I do, but realistically, I don't. And getting past that perspective of like, I can't do this to like, I should do this. I think that's ultimately um, what we need to do. Lanette, any thoughts?
Well, I mean, when Lim was talking about the different cards, I know that there's a lot of planetary energies that are pushing us to take another look at like religion, right? Or our spiritual upbringing and saying, is this the path for me? Right? And so that card coming up is I feel like very poignant, right? It's just right. It's like right on. It's like people are all of their dogma, all of that dogma that is put on us as we're growing up, like that stuff's coming to the surface to be cleared. Um, I I had to clear that. That's part of my journey for sure. So, I think, we probably all had that, like trying to figure out like what does spirituality look like for me, right? And getting rid of the dogma. That's one of the things that I do is help people release dogma. It's part of the spiral technique that I do for clients. And so um what was the other one? There was another one. Remind me, Lynn, what they are
We
again?
had the Five of Worlds or Pentacles. This is like missed opportunities and financial setbacks because we missed opportunities. Child of Crystals or Swords, that was literally the wounds from childhood, the wounding thoughts and attitudes. We had
Yeah.
the Hierophant that you just mentioned, and then the last one is the Universe, which kind of speaks to this larger Saturn theme that we've been touching on with, karma and authority structures and, you know
Mhm.
you
I
know,
know.
what you
I
just
know.
said about the dogma and saying, hey,
Yeah.
getting that
Yeah.
out.
Well, I know for myself, like the childhood wounds, right, have been very in my face in the last, 8 weeks, I'd say. I had a session with Jamie where she was clearing some stuff from childhood that I had no idea was there. And it's been something that's been kind of plaguing me since I was a child. And so there's actually a video. She and I did a recording that we're going to be putting live on the channel that is basically goes over that session. Because it was really profound, right? It was just, and I think this is something that a lot of people don't even recognize that happened to them. The stuff that was coming up for me, I know that there's going to be so many people, they're going to be able to relate to that to that scenario and that situation because like how many of us, did not get spanked as a child for, when we were being potty trained and had accidents, right? Like I think every single one of us, right? So that trauma from way back when is still in our bodies and it potentially could, be is still causing issues, right? And so that's actually one of the reasons why I love having sessions with Jamie is because she finds stuff that is like hidden in all the nooks and the crannies and I'm just like, whoa, like I need that stuff to come up, right? And so at every opportunity, I'll have Jamie work on me and start just drudge that stuff up. And then I do my processes and techniques to help clear almost like the residual, like the fallout of the stuff that comes up that she clears. Like it's, she's clearing some of it, but then there's stuff that I just need to clear on my own. And so I have the techniques and tools to do that, thank goodness. So but it's definitely, I think we're all being prompted, like you said in that card pull, right? We're all being prompted to heal all those childhood wounds because as we're ascending, right, and wanting to raise our vibration, we have to release all of that density that's within us in order for us to raise our vibration, right? And so the people like me and Jamie who are helping our clients raise their vibration by releasing all of the stuff that's stuck, right, that we don't even know about, right? It's huge. It's huge. So I
Mm.
know Jamie, when we were talking earlier that you were also getting that you were finding a lot of anger, right, in your clients that was like trapped in their kidneys, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Just even in the last week, I had several, and I was pulling a lot of anger out of their kidneys. And I was being shown that this is what turns into like kidney stones. Um, it's like just that emotion is just, it gets knotted up like in a ball. And so I think that like I know that my lower back is a vulnerable space. I know that a lot of healers um, is that's a vulnerable area. And so um, we all have a tendency to absorb our emotions in certain parts of our body, right? Like how different people carry weight in different areas. We do the same thing with our emotions. It could be in your organs, it could be up in your shoulders and your neck. Um, um, I clear more energy out of people's knees and feet than probably. And the one place I would think I would clear it out of mostly would be their heart. And but no, it's because this is the other thing. I think that when people get to a certain age, right? Like as you're going through your life, you're aspiring to do this or to do that or to be this person. And then after you've done that for a long time, you start to say, what's next? What's what's after this? And that is where that fear of moving forward, that fear of what is next, what does my future look like, where do I go from here, um, is that gets stuck in our knees and it gets stuck in our feet. So a lot of people have problems with ankles and have swelling, right? Swelling, any type of inflammation and swelling is emotion, right? And so um, it goes back to what I was getting intuitively, and that is if you could step back and if you weren't paying attention to, you were taught to think this way or you were taught to go through life this way, if you could detach from all of that, what would your life look like? And I really think that that's become really important for people in their like second part of their life, because now is the time where they're needing to start thinking about, these are all the things I've done out of obligation and responsibility. Now is a time in my life where it's starting to slow down and where it can start, like usually your kids are grown, they're out of the house, and now is a time for you to figure out who you are as a person. And I think that's the other piece that is coming in for a lot of people at a certain age, is it's like part two. Now it's more about me, and we're taught that when we think about ourselves it's selfish, right? And so self love is coming through on almost every single session that I do. Is it is not selfish, it's self-love. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to think about what is for our highest good. Um, and we have to set boundaries, maintain those boundaries, but do things that are for us, right? Um, this mantra came in for one of my clients the other day, and that was, I release what no longer serves me, and I welcome everything that's for my highest good. And it's getting in the habit of saying, I let go of every situation, every person, everything that no longer serves me, and I open my arms up to what is for my highest good.
No,
Yeah,
it's
that's
interesting. Saturn is in Pisces, and Pisces is the feet, and Neptune is in Pisces, and Pisces is the feet. So all this healing around the feet, like that just makes so much sense. And this whole, I'm doing everything for everyone else, but I have to think of me. Pisces is the sign of self-sacrifice. So it's Saturn and Neptune and Pisces. We're doing a lot of self-sacrificial stuff, like giving more than we should, letting our energy be drained more than it should. But that's going to change because Neptune goes into Aries at end of January, I think, and then like Saturn goes into Aries the next month. So we're gonna that paradigm is gonna change within the new year. People are gonna wake up and realize I got to make my dreams a reality. I have to put myself first. I'm the leader of my life, and I'm gonna take charge. So if people feel stuck in this pattern of like, well, I'm always being pulled at all directions and I just can't help it. I mean, that the shift where that ends is coming. So we do have that to look forward to. Because sometimes we're stuck in an energy pattern and we're wondering, well, when is it going to end? And sometimes it's just a transit. And when it ends, it's like a light bulb goes off and there's no going back to it. So as long as you get to that level where, you know, it like there's nothing wrong with putting myself first. Like, why wasn't I doing that beforehand? I mean, it's my life, right? So
Mhm.
once that light bulb goes off, like you're not gonna go back as long as that's what you want, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, I constantly tell people about the oxygen mask, right? You know, they when you're on an airplane and they say if the oxygen mask drops, you have to put it on yourself first, and then you take care of whoever is with you, right? You have to take care of yourself first so that you are the best version of you because you're not only are you doing that for you, you're doing that for the people in your life.
Mhm.
It's interesting too because if we're thinking we've been talking about people who are kind of in this certain age cohort, let's call it like early mid 50s, right? And for a lot of that generation, when they looked at their parents, the example that was being set was, I am maxed out, I'm giving everything that is possible to give, and I'm exhausted, and this and that. And that was held up as the ideal of parents doing it right. And so now people are walking around and they don't have an example of seeing, mom take a bath, dad taking a walk in the woods. They don't know how to access that. And there's a whole conversation about mental health, Gen X in particular, right? Gen X had like a couple rock stars and famous people, come to bad ends. Either they took their lives, they, got over involved in drugs and dangerous behaviors because they had their own mental health things going on. At the same time, you had pharmaceuticals come out and say, hey, these are the cures for depression, anxiety, da 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 da. And the only context people had for those conditions at the time was what they saw in movies and read in books that presented this really exaggerated, like people with the absolute worst of the worst of the worst possible mental health crises, and that was people's really only education on what mental health was. And so if they're watching a movie and they're saying, well, I feel bad, but I'm not suicidal. I feel depressed, but I can still leave my house. I feel anxious, but I'm still going to work in the morning. I must not have any problems. I must be fine. And I watched my parents do all this stuff and they were fine. And then you look 15, 20 years later, you have a new generation that has always had access to therapy, that has always had access to pharmaceuticals, that has always had access to more education on self-care and meditation and breath work and all these sort of non-medical interventions. And you have this new generation of people growing up and saying, I have these problems and I have support and I know how to manage it. And so, when you have this new generation coming up and saying, yes, I have these problems, but I also have solutions. Now the generation that came before has this fear, oh no, what if there's no help for my problems? What if I waited too long? What if I can't access that knowledge? What if I can't catch up on that journey to well-being? And so, this incoming spirituality and focus on energy work is kind of like a sneaky way for an entire generation to access some of these larger ideas without feeling like, oh, I went to therapy and did this thing that only people with big problems have. It's a way of kind of getting at the wounds without admitting to oneself or even doing a lot of exploration around like, do I have a clinical problem? You know, it's an avenue you can still get at the healing without, you know, participating in this larger conversation that may not make people feel so great.
What are some of the recommendations that each of you has for helping to kind of address those childhood wounds that are coming up, or the issues of like the dogma, or the conditioning and programming and like all that stuff? Like, what are some of the go-to techniques that you all use or recommend?
Well, for dogma, like I said, Saturn is leaving Pisces, and Pisces is religion, spirituality, and Saturn sometimes is antiquated. So I feel as Saturn moves out of Pisces, we're going to be moving away from these old beliefs, and we're going to be forming our new beliefs. I would say, what is your experience in life? How have you experienced the divine? Do you experience the divine? How do you experience nature? I recommend everyone have a journal and just write their own experience and have their own. I mean, Neptune and Aries, Saturn and Aries, it's coming next year very early. Um, Seek your own spirituality. Maybe a group or an organized religion just isn't best for you, but that doesn't mean you can't connect to the divine. Maybe we have this old paradigm where it's like, if I don't go to church, I lose touch. And maybe it's the opposite. Maybe we need to look within and see it from that perspective.
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
I
Got
think
it.
it's useful to look at some of those practices. For example, you mentioned going to church. You know, we just came off Thanksgiving holiday, and I was speaking to somebody who has shifted their, you know, religion, and they are now practicing something called Shabbat, which is basically a practice where I think it's from like Friday to Saturday night. This person is not using electricity. They are avoiding what falls under the category of work. And it was one of those things where, you know, if you're in a place where you're saying my religion or my belief system is the best and the only, and you hear somebody describing this, then what you're thinking is, ah, that sounds terrible. What this person was actually describing was unplugging. They're unplugging from technology. They're avoiding the household tasks. They're not answering their phone or their email. And I thought to myself, my gosh, this is something that, you know, the rest of us that are not practicing this particular ritual have a hard time doing. And yet this religion has managed to build it and bake it right into the daily practice or the weekly practice. So I think, you know, looking at those rituals, for example, going to church, what is it about the going to church that does resonate? Is it because you have a quiet space? Is it because you're outside your house? Is it because you're with a community? Is it because you get to sing and vocalize and manage energy that way? Is it when you get to shake hands and have the sign of peace that you say, oh gosh, I got some kind of skin to skin contact with another human being, and that was a calming sort of thing? Was it the smell from the incense? Was it the beautiful stained glass windows and surroundings? Was it that I got out of my house and walked a little bit? Was it the drive that allowed me to kind of clear my mind? So I think, you know, the first step is paying attention to what we do every day. And when we find a moment where we say, ah, this feels kind of good, like stick a pin in that and use it as a reference for later and try to do more of that thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, journaling synchronicities. Sometimes things just happen. Like you'll be walking outside and you'll have a thought and the wind will pick up. Little things like that are little acts of the divine that sometimes we just take for granted. And if you just notice these things, be more aware of your surroundings, be more aware of reality. Because what is reality? Reality is the divine experience in itself. So just, how do I say it? Um, Looking for your own personal experiences with it, not reading in a book what it should be or what you should be looking for. Like you said, the dogma, this is what I should do, this is what I should do, this is how we practice. It's more like, how are you living it?
Hmm.
Um, and to piggyback off of something each of you said, um, that to be like what Jeanette was saying, being present in the moment. The more that you are pull yourself back present, as soon as you start to feel yourself worrying about things that could happen, most of what we worry about never comes to fruition. It never happens. And so, and honestly, the small amount that does, it was never within our control anyway. Um, so we're putting a lot of energy out into future events, and the more that you can bring yourself back in the present moment, and you find a focal point in the room that you're in, and just bringing yourself back into that moment, um, and just being aware of that. And then the other thing is that when you do something like Lynn was saying, like going out and like doing different things, when you do something that's out of your routine, then it shifts the energy for you. So when you're feeling like stuck, when you feel stuck, or you just feel like sometimes, I even though I'm a healer, I still deal with anxiety. I still deal with those lower vibration emotions, and I have to do things that are gonna raise my vibration. And one of the things that I love to do is I'm a tree hugger, and trees have incredible energy, and they're very grounding. But doing things and making ourselves be aware of what's happening in the moment and stop living, the more that we are thinking about what is down the road, the less that we're actually living our life, right? Because we're always living in a future that is always ahead of us.
Mhm.
Lynette, any final thoughts?
There's a couple of books that came to mind. I am always I love to listen to audiobooks. So so The Body Keeps the Score is a great book for helping to understand trauma and how trauma gets stored in the body. And then Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. That's another one. And so both of those books are really good for helping to just kind of understand how emotions get stored in the body, and then as far as like what to do about them, obviously energy work, any type of sound healing, sound baths, breath work is really great for releasing stuck energy, walking in the grass and grounding, hugging a tree, getting out and just moving your body. All of those things I think are really good. Um, Meditation. Um, so yeah, I think all of those things are really great ways to like move the energy and release what no longer serves us. So yeah.
And just doing one thing every day that is out of your normal routine will disrupt that energy flow, and it will shift the energy. Just one thing, especially when it's something that is creative, something that is where you're creating some art, jewelry, journaling, right? So that creative energy, it really helps to balance and to raise your vibration.
Mhm. I was actually talking to a client yesterday and recommending that he write a letter to each of his parents
Mm-hmm.
and basically just doing a like a dump of like this was my experience, and then, if you feel so, you know, driven to like forgiveness, right? Forgiveness goes a long way. So, but getting it up and out is the big thing, right? And so writing those letters to, your parents or siblings or exes or friends or whoever, right? Anyone that you feel like you've got some clearing to do around, those letters, writing those letters and then either burning them, burying them, tearing them up, putting them down the
I say
toilet.
burn them.
I
I
put them
say
in
burn
my
them too.
garden.
Burn them. Yep.
Find a safe way to burn them. Put them in a pot, So yeah, but that's another really great way to just clear out like stuff that's stuck and to just get it up and out. So,
And also, just we all need to give ourselves grace. Give yourself the space. Like, we'll like feel emotional and start to cry and we stop ourselves, right? And it's like, no, that's your body. Your body's trying to release. If you don't let it release in that moment, it's going to manifest somewhere else in your
mhm,
body. So just give yourself the grace to process and to let go and to release and to grieve, and any opportunity that you can take a memory and you can, instead of feeling bad about why it happened, if you can pull something out of it that helped you be a stronger person or helped you be independent or helped you get through the things that you had to get through as an adult, right? Everything that happens, there experiences, and there's something for us to learn in everything. Every single thing that's happened in our lives, there's something that we can take, and if we can kind of step back and look at it and say, how did that, instead of saying that should have never happened to me, how did that help me? How did that help me become the person that I am today? How did I change or heal from that so that I'm not repeating those patterns, right? So looking at it differently helps to shift that energy, and it helps to release that energy of feeling like I should have never experienced that. That should have never been done to me. I should have never been treated that way. And then say, that taught me, because somebody didn't respect boundaries, now I set and maintain boundaries. I protect myself. I'm strong, I'm independent, I'm resilient. Like, whatever you can find from the experiences in your life that shaped you into a positive way, or it helped you become the person that you are today. And that helps you to release that trauma. The more that you can remember your memories as an experience, as a learning experience instead of a trauma, then it shifts and it moves, it lets you release that energy from your body.
mhm. Yep. All right. Well, thank you, ladies, for all of your input. And any last thoughts before we close out? No?
No, get ready for the full moon on Thursday.
Oh yeah, what can we expect of
That
that?
should bring a lot of stuff up. Full moons just make us see things. It just gives us a little bit more energy. So I don't think it's going to be anything crazy, but we might have a slight revelation.
All right. All right. Well, so Jamie, where can people reach out to you at?
Jaime Beasley, intuitive.com.
And that's Jaime.
Thank you.
And Lynn, what about you?
And reach me at footnotestarot.com.
Very good. Jeanette?
So my practice is on Instagram, Denora Johnson Astrology, or Denora dash Johnson dash 444 dash astrology.com.
All right. And I am at elevateyourhealthvibe.com. And yeah, so well, thank you, ladies, for another awesome conversation. And we will chat again in a week or two, depending on schedules. So yeah, all right. We'll see you then. And thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Bye.